Before Supreme, before Bape, before even Tommy Hilfiger, there was Stüssy. It might sound bold, but there's a strong case to be made that Stüssy is every bit as influential as Ralph Lauren. Legiterally. Where streetwear was once rooted in subcultures, it's now firmly entrenched in the monoculture. And the seed that sprouted such tremendous growth is Shawn Stüssy. Shawn and his namesake brand have done more than set an example for others to follow. They've played an active role in propagating the field of streetwear as we know it today. And while it may not reach the same heights as Supreme or Palace or Amy Leon Dore, it's far from a legacy act. It consistently delivers hits on multiple fronts, maintaining its core DNA long after Shawn himself left, while delivering inspired, fashion-forward pieces alongside the essentials of streetwear. But here's the question, okay? How in the hell did a small surfboard shop from Laguna Beach end up laying the foundation for streetwear as a global phenomenon? And here's an even better question. Why and how has Stüssy, even after all these years, remained so influential in a space that's notorious for chasing the next big thing? This is one of, if not my favorite brand consistently throughout my life. It's a fascinating story, and I'm so excited to tell you about it. Welcome to Speed. This is everything you need to know about Stüssy. Shawn Stüssy, whose name does not have an umlaut, began shaping surfboards at just 14 years old. What a little grom. He learned how to screen print even earlier than that, at 12. His parents owned a printing shop. He was a printing shop nepo baby. In 1979, Shawn opened a Laguna Beach surf shop where he'd make and sell his own surfboards. Now, he had already been well known around the scene for his shaping while he was working at Russell Surfboards, which is still around today. You can go to it. It's in Newport Beach. Tell them Shawn sent you. They'd probably love that. Rolled up into Russell Surfboards and you're like, hey, is Shawn here? And then they're like, who? Shawn Stüssy. No, Shawn hasn't worked here since 1978. What? What year is it? 2024. I overslept. And then you run out of there as fast as you can. Shawn's boards were known for their quality, but also for their colorful artwork inspired by punk, reggae, and hip hop. Now you can tell that he's influenced by all these things if you're familiar with any of the OG Stüssy designs. And I want to say right at the top, I'm fully aware of the fact that if in 2024 some white guy came out with a brand and was like, hey, I got this reggae cartoon on all my shirts, I don't think it would do as well. But hey, different times. Shawn also drew inspiration from his uncle, the abstract painter Jan Frederick Stüssy. Is one of his paintings here, as well as graffiti, the coolest way to write your name. Now, if Stüssy's hand-scrawled logo reminds you of a tag, it's because it essentially is, so good job. Each of Shawn's surfboards featured his famous signature, written in big fat marker years before it covered t-shirts all over the world. It's like, Shawn told the surf lifestyle site Empire Ave,
it's 78, 79, it's Sex Pistols and The Clash. It hits America, so I'm a pug guy. I'm gonna start my own business. And the last thing I wanna do is make boards like what I thought were the old days. Even though they were guys I respected, I was like, F you old guys. Then I just wrote Stüssy and broke away at the end of 79 and made my first Stüssy board.
The Stüssy logo and Shawn's wider aesthetic carried over to t-shirts, which were originally made to promote the surfboard business. Shawn had no plans to sell them when he went to find buyers for his surfboards at the second ever action sports retailer trade show. So he'd printed at least one black t-shirt with the Stüssy logo on it to wear as he was selling surfboards. And people were like, dude, what is that? And he was like, that's my name. And they were like, we love how you write it. It looks sick on a t-shirt. Can I buy one? And at first he was like, no, I only have this many for me and my theoretical boys to wear. Can I interest you in a surfboard? It also has my name on it. And people were like, really not in the market for a surfboard. I mean, there's a lot of options here. This is the second ever action sports retail show. But so many people asked him for their shirts that after 3 days, he'd sold 24 surfboards, but had orders for 1,000 t-shirts. At the next show, 6 months later, Shawn came prepared with 2 t-shirt designs to sell. Well, here's your shirt. I came prepared. Oh, I like that design as well. I'll take it. Great, 2 for 2. Can I interest you in a board now? No, but I would like to buy your shorts. You're weird. He's wearing a pair of cut-off chinos that he bought from the Army Navy store. And people were like, oh, damn, dude. Those are so much more punk than the Ocean Pacific shorts that are favored by most surfers at this time. Shawn exhausted his supply after tracking down 300 to 400 more pairs in the next 6 months to fulfill orders. So he turned to his aunt and was like, Aunt, Stüssy's making cut and sew. And they put together Stüssy's first pattern for a pair of shorts. Cut and sew, baby. I love this. This is quite literally the American dream. In 1984, Shawn partnered with a registered accountant, Frank Sinatra Jr., and he invested $5,000 to help, not that one. Okay, so there's a Frank Sinatra who's a very famous singer. He has a son, very famous Frank Sinatra Jr., who's also a singer, less good than his dad. This is a completely different Frank Sinatra Jr., who had a dad, I assume, whose name is Frank Sinatra. And like his dad wasn't like, hey, I grew up with the same name as one of the most famous men on the planet. I'm gonna put that on my son too. I gave this channel the same name, different spelling as one of the most famous streamers on the planet. So I can relate. He invested $5,000 to help launch a proper clothing brand. Stüssy's initial offerings included logo t-shirts and workwear inspired apparel, the latter of which we touched on a bit in our video about Carhartt. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and do it. And while you're at it, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. It really contributes to how I feel about myself. There is a one-to-one comparison with how many views and subs we get and myself. In a New York Times story from 1992, Shawn himself explained the signature Stüssy look.
It's a ragamuffin thing, a utilitarian kind of look. The colors are muted so they stay clean. It's basically an attitude that reflects what's going on now. I don't know if it's harder or tougher, but it's less frou-frou. Everybody calls it surfwear or urban streetwear or surf street. They're all names. I don't name it, and I don't name it on purpose. I just make basic clothes that a 10-year-old can wear and my dad can wear.
And that is a great quote, and it really does hit hard for me because like that's how I've always approached videos. I want to make something that a 10-year-old can watch and that my dad can watch. It's very cool that like a creator in that space that I really look up to like shares that sentiment. And just makes me like the brand that much more because like, you make stuff for other people, not for yourself.
Pants and shirts and jackets and hats.
Okay, so this is a big deal. So you know how like every single brand on the planet has their logo on a baseball hat? This is ASAP Rocky's brand. Here's an Iraq, New York. Sci-fi fantasy, luxury brand, this guy. I even have my name on a hat. Before Shawn Stüssy, it was only baseball teams. No one put 2 and 2 together and was like, you know what we should do? We should put our logo on a hat. And that's exactly what he did. He was like, baseball hats are a thing that young men like to wear. What if I put the Stüssy logo on one? Dude, no one thought of that? Across the board, a lot of people credit Shawn Stüssy for being the first designer to put his logo on a baseball hat. If he quit doing shit forever after that, and that was all he did, that would be a huge accomplishment. But as you'll find out in the rest of this video, he did a lot more than that. Very cool guy. So Shawn puts his logo on a hat, and they took off like my dad on Christmas Eve. By the late 1980s, hat sales accounted for 20% of Stüssy's business. And Stüssy's business, ladies, was good. $17 million in annual revenue in 1990. Shawn established an identifiable design language from the jump, with the handwritten Stüssy font, of course, being omnipresent, which means always there, which is also the opposite of my dad. We're back, baby! The logo was often mixed with images, collage style, embodying punk DIY aesthetics. Look at some of these things. Stüssy's iconic Surferman graphic also dates back to the 80s, as do various riffs on the letter S that are still used today. The brand's affinity for the 8-ball design began in those early days as well, and so did its spoofs on high fashion logos that have inspired a number of other streetwear brands. This is like one of the coolest things to me that Stüssy's done. And was like the first to do. So this is my favorite Stüssy logo, Stüssy Chanel, because Shawn Stüssy had same letter initials, just like Coco Chanel. Get it? Get it? Stüssy referenced Chanel again by mimicking the logo on Chanel's famous No. 5 perfume on Stüssy's No. 4 t-shirt. It also took on Louis Vuitton years before Tyler, the Creator, Pharrell, and Virgil, with the Louis Vuitton monogram that drew a lawsuit more than a decade before it sued Supreme for the same offense. Stüssy's first world tour t-shirt, another long-lasting motif, dropped in 1989 while calling out London, Paris, Los Angeles, New York City, and Tokyo. This is on a ton of Stüssy shirts, and I always assumed that it started because that's where Stüssy stores were. Nope. Shawn had been traveling the world, and it turns out that those were just cities that he visited and liked and had friends in. Now, traveling to those cities had a huge effect on him. And the friends that he made in those cities would go on to form the International Stüssy Tribe. Now, whether taking direct roles in Stüssy's business or more informally holding up the brand as something cool to follow, the tribe formed by Shawn became streetwear's super spreaders. This video is sponsored by Ridge Wallet, the #1 slim wallet. I drive a lot, and whenever I'm in the car for an extended period of time, I hate having my wallet in my back pocket. It makes my butt hurt. Usually I will take my wallet out of my pocket and put it in the door, and then I forget about it. And the door is not a good place for your wallet to be if you're about to spend money in a store. That's where today's sponsor comes in. Ridge wallets are designed for your front pockets. So if driving is your hobby like me, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you like ride the subway every day. Or if you just spend a lot of time in a waiting room, like waiting for doctors or court. If you spend a lot of time on your bottom and you don't want a big bulky wallet back there, Ridge.
Humphrey, step up to the bench.
They're also super rugged and carry a lifetime warranty. Ridge wallets come in over 50 different colorways. This one is tobacco brown leather. You can also mix and match colors to make them truly your own. That's what I did with this car. I mixed this color with that color. I matched this color with that color. Your wallet can be a thing that represents who you are. And they offer RFID protection to keep Mr. Robot from stealing your information. And on the subject of cars, they also have a new key case. So if you want to keep the slim party going, jangly keys are a thing of the past, Jack. Oh, and here's a little pro tip. These make great gifts for men and boys. Get your holiday shopping done now. You don't have to do anything for the rest of the year. Genius. So visit ridge.com/speed with 3 E's and enter promo code SPEED with 3 E's to get 10% off your purchase. Now, Shawn Stüssy is the senpai of streetwear. A New York City boutique called Union is where a lot of the guys who learned from senpais were found. A dude by the name of James Jebbia opened Union in 1989. By all accounts, this was a very hip store. So Jebbia wanted to stock Stüssy in his Union store, but at this point, Shawn was very protective about the places he would allow to carry Stüssy, so he turned him down. Eventually, through a friend, they hung out and they got to know each other. Shawn started to really like James. Eventually, he let him carry Stüssy in his store, and when it came time for Stüssy to open his own New York City location in 1990, he tapped Jebbia to take charge. Word on the street is it was actually James Jebbia's idea to open a Stüssy store in New York. That same year, Stüssy went to Japan and threw the very first International Stüssy Tribe party. Now, the group had already started informally in the late 80s, but this party in Japan is where the moniker first showed up on Garms. That's the boy version of Put a Ring on It. Are we official? Do we have matching jackets with the name of our team on it? No? Okay, I'm gonna keep looking for a group of friends. Nah, dude, put it on Garm. At that party, Shawn put it on Garm, embroidering International Stüssy Tribe on personalized varsity jackets given exclusively to this band of like-minded creatives. So cool. Now, these guys were the original tastemakers and influencers of streetwear, a group of real friends, an undeniable force for marketing, the Ronald Reagans of trickle-down driponomics. The London chapter included Michael Kopelman, founder of Gimme 5, a brand and streetwear distributor that is credited for bringing Stüssy and Bape to Europe. There was also Alex Turnbull, a DJ, record label owner, and filmmaker. Cool resume, dog. Even Mick Jones of The Clash and Big Audio Dynamite was a member. From New York, you had James Jebbia, who went on to found Supreme. Eddie Cruz, who would become the founder of Undefeated. Paul Middleman, early streetwear god, who would eventually take over as global creative director after Shawn leaves. Spoiler alert, more on that later. This guy has the coolest LinkedIn I have ever seen in my life, and he's still going. You also had Dante Ross, the Tommy Boy Records exec who signed De La Soul and Busta Rhymes, as well as Keith Haring, a very famous artist. In Italy, you had Luca Benini, the man behind Slam Jam, which is the retailer and distributor that played a large role in Stüssy European's growth. And in Tokyo, you had Hiroshi Fujiwara. You ever heard of him? Fujiwara was never directly involved in Stüssy's business, but was definitely influenced. Stüssy inspired him to start printing his own t-shirts under the label Good Enough, which would then give way to Fragment Design. In a 2015 interview, Paul said, "The tribe happened before the growth of the brand. It appeared as a form of mutual respect between like-minded people without any consideration or motive of commercial growth," which, of course, is authenticity. You had to know someone to be in on the look. You couldn't just buy into it. The tribe helped spread the gospel of Stüssy by word of mouth, and they would also feature heavily in Stüssy's campaigns. Now, these spreads opted for a lo-fi DIY aesthetic, matching that of Stüssy's now famous tees and its roots in punk. Now, while Jebbia was running Stüssy's NYC store, Eddie Cruz took over operations for Union. Then, in 1992, Union and Stüssy decided to open a joint Los Angeles store known as the Stüssy Union, setting Eddie to the West Coast to manage it. Now, eventually, the two parties grew into their own individual spaces, but They still, to this day, sit directly next to each other in the same spot on La Brea Avenue. I have Union shoes. You want to see them? So I got these Union shoes, these J1s, and then I got Union lows. As you can tell, I'm big into resale. I keep them crispy. I'm not really into sneakers, but Union J4s are the only sneakers that I want and have never bought. They're like $700 bucks. In 1994, James Jebbia started his own brand and opened his own store just a 4-minute walk away from Stüssy, New York. Now, you may have heard of it. It's called Supreme. I have never heard of it. JK, dude. I'm born and raised in LA with a Fairfax High, dude. Lucas is my brother. James told legendary cool guy Glenn O'Brien for Interview Magazine in 2009,
I had the Stüssy store right here in Prince Street, but Shawn didn't know whether he was gonna do it for that long. He'd made a ton of money, and then I think he decided to retire, so I thought, I'd better be doing something else too, because I don't want to count on this.
That's sick, dude. Dude was like, oh well, better do something. Guess I'll make a $1 billion brand. Now there's some conflicting reports under what terms Shawn did eventually leave Stüssy in 1996. Some say he left on good terms to spend more time with his family. Others say he wasn't exactly stoked to leave among tension between the creative and business side of the business. What is that like? I have no idea. Can you imagine? You spend a big chunk of your life like building a really strong brand, and then some business guys come in and then you're like, hold on, this is getting kind of weird and like not fun and not cool. And I think you guys are kind of missing the point of like what this is supposed to be. I've never experienced anything remotely similar to this, so I wouldn't know. Surfing and skateboarding exploded in the 90s, and with it, a ton of people wanted to dress like surfers and skateboarders. That's how nature works. This brought the culture to the forefront, and also a bunch of competition for Stüssy with brands like Billabong, Quicksilver, Rip Curl, and especially Mossimo. You guys remember Mossimo? I was a child back then, and I didn't have money. My parents got to decide what I bought, and if I wanted to dress like a surfer, my mom didn't know the difference between Stüssy and Mossimo. They looked the same. And if Mossimo was easier for her to purchase, and I still look like a little poser ass surfer, job's done. Time to make some London broil. She doesn't care about like, well, actually, this dude's legit. He's very careful about what retailers he lets carry his stuff. Wow, thanks, Mom. So Mossimo was fairly obvious in its intent to steal Stüssy's thunder. Even their logo was extremely similar. And Mossimo chased growth in a way that Stüssy had never done, essentially squeezing Stüssy out at the time, but ultimately starting down a path to its own doom further down the line. They prioritized immediate gains, trying to sell as many shirts and hats and pants as they could, as fast as they could. Now, Stüssy decided not to play into this game and opted to weather the storm with a different approach. Seeing that the brand was losing steam in America, Frank Sinatra Jr. shifted its focus to the international market. Europe and Japan kept Stüssy alive during a long period of it being basically forgotten in the US from the mid-90s to the 2000s. Japan, in particular, maintained its appetite for Stüssy. In 2000, Nike began collaborating with Stüssy in London. The first shoe they did was an Air Huarache, sold exclusively at Stüssy London. A year later, they dropped an exclusive Dunk High. And when I say exclusive, I mean exclusive AF. They only released 12 pairs a day, all right, sparking huge lines outside of stores. Subsequent releases included Blazer Mids in 2002. And the first co-branded Nike sneaker, the Friends and Family exclusive Air Huarache Light in 2003. In 2005, Nike and Stüssy launched the Court Force with matching co-branded tees and the SB Dunk Cherry, part of the Team Manager series, now reselling for over $3,000. By throwing in with the emergent sneaker culture, Stüssy regained ground in America. Streetwear is the natural counterpart to the sneakers in a complete outfit. Stüssy got on the minds of sneakerheads through its Nike collabs, which in turn brought them back to buy Stüssy garms to wear with their Stüssy kicks. Can't just have the kicks without the garms. Even so, its revenue still tipped more toward the international market than in America, with a 60-40 split of its $50 million revenue in 2014. Still, there was one last push needed to put Stüssy at its current remastery of cool. So what changed? We started truthfully designing better. The iteration of Stüssy that we see now is by far its most fashionable. It's still built on the original principles established by Shawn, and we even see reissues of his original designs. Stüssy's evolution into more of a label with a streetwear core has been widely praised. The Stüssy of today has been spearheaded by Fraser Avey, who took on the role of global brand director in 2015. He cited 3 key members of what he'd call the brand's new tribe. Men's design director, Israel Gonzalez, his women's wear counterpart, Jane Goheen, and super consultant, Tremaine Emery, founder of Denim Tears and former creative director of Supreme. The range of stores where Stüssy was sold was also refined. It walked away from larger retailers such as Zumiez and PacSun, while entertaining more cultivated spaces such as Dover Street Market and Mr. Porter. Stüssy has pushed boundaries with pieces that include baggy leather shorts, skinny ties with Shawn's lettering in jacquard, an almost disorienting wobbly check shirt and trouser set, tie-dyed fisherman sweaters. Right? Simply put, the shapes rock, the motifs bang, and the taste is unimpeachable. But they still offer streetwear staples such as t-shirts, hoodies, hats, pants, and of course, yes, they all still slap. It's just fun. It's unpretentious and fun. It's Stüssy. It says, hey, I know you're here for a t-shirt, but have you considered a blazer? And that's why I love it. Big man Shawn Stüssy retreated to raise his family, build houses, and surf. In 2010, after his 3 boys had grown all up, he launched a new venture called S-Double. Once again, it began with him making surfboards by hand. And once again, he was eventually convinced to sell clothing. Now at first, S-Double clothes were only sold in Japan because they're that cool. But that didn't last very long. The brand took off fairly quickly, but shuttered quietly in 2016. Shawn has also maintained a presence on Instagram, where he's shown his current activities as well as old photos, drawings, and graphics. It's also been a place where he's shared his feelings too, about streetwear broadly and Stüssy specifically. His most particular gripe is the re-release of his original designs. In a comment in response to a hat, Shawn said, "Herein lies the problem. The always lame re-release. My designs were meant for the moment of which they were created. And to have a vintage piece that still speaks to you is what it's all about. Not making more new ones for the money grab." What you won't find on Shawn's Instagram though is the announcement that S-Double is returning. Instead, dude went back to his roots, full analog, to announce that big news with a mural featuring his handwritten manifesto painted on the Australian headquarters of Globe, which is partnering with him for the relaunch. If you know your history, which you should, at least a little more if you stuck through this video this long, you should be excited about Shawn's return to clothing. Based on the order interview he gave during S-Double's first stint, there should be little reason to doubt his intentions, let alone his abilities. I, for one, am very excited for Shawn to come back, and I'm gonna leave you guys with this quote from the man himself. The whole idea of a brand is skewed to me right now. You don't start with a brand, you start with a project. And if you do your project with passion and tenacity, the prize is the brand. The destination is the brand. And you hope it's worth something in the end. Thank you guys for watching this video, sticking with us. This feels good. Super scary, super stressful, but also like really f***ing cool. And I'm so glad that we're doing this. I know it's kind of long between videos, but thank you guys for bearing with us. It's getting shorter and shorter as we figure stuff out. We are not taking on any money, 100% independently produced. And with that comes, it just takes a little longer to make shit. So we're gonna do a lot more of these deep dives into the history of stuff. Let us know what you want us to do in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram at James Pumphrey or on TikTok, Kentucky Cobra. Those are the places that I can talk to you every day. We're gearing up. All right, dudes, I love you.